Hi there. Have you ever looked at a glowworm with jealousy? Have you ever looked at one and gone, dang, wouldn't it be cool if I could do that?
I mean, look at them. They're so beautiful and shiny.
Well, Janet, unfortunately we can't. So abandon those dreams now. Humans just can't glow. Unless, what if we went on a 12-minute adventure through the world of bioluminescence, learning about how it works and why it might be used? Maybe then could we glow? Well, there's only one way to find out. So let's get started. Onward! The first step in our journey of discovery is to learn exactly how bioluminescence works. Unfortunately, this isn't a simple task. There is no one mechanism that all glowing creatures use. Instead, the ability to glow has evolved independently almost 100 times, and each of these cases uses a slightly different system. Despite this variation, there are still some things that they all share.
Every bioluminescence reaction requires 3 parts: a luciferase, a luciferin, and an oxygen that come together to create light. The first of these, luciferase, is the protein component, an enzyme that facilitates the reaction. I'm not sure why they look so bored. Maybe they don't like their job? I'm sure many of us can relate to that. Anywho, while there are many theories regarding the origins of luciferase, it's not entirely clear where it came from, and it's likely unique for each of the many times it has emerged. And because these origins are all unique, each of the luciferases themselves are unique, which creates some pretty interesting proteins. These range from 2-part systems in bacteria to the proteins found in insects such as fireflies that need an extra energy boost to do their work. Next up is the luciferin, the chemical component that luciferase uses to make light. Unlike luciferase, they look much happier with their existence. Maybe because there aren't as many different luciferins they have to compete with. In fact, with there being just over 1/10 as many luciferins as there are luciferases, many creatures make the same type of luciferin and others can only get it from their diet, which would make each luciferin rather popular. The last thing all reactions need is oxygen, which seems to be a rather dorky individual with an ice cream. Why, you ask? Because it's my video and I can do what I want. Anyway, oxygen serves as our source of electrons. That's what the ice cream represents. I bet you're also asking why we need electrons. Well, patience, my child. It's coming. So now that we've got the 3 things we need, let's see how the reaction actually unfolds. Before that, however, I should clarify that what you're about to see is a very generalized and simplified reaction. The actual details vary greatly between species. With that out of the way, on with the reaction! We start with our luciferase and luciferin floating around, just doing their own thing. Eventually, luciferase comes along and gives the luciferin a great big hug. Once they're bound, a passing oxygen molecule has its electron ice cream stolen by luciferase, who then gives it to luciferin. This leaves us with a rather sad oxygen, who runs away crying, and an excited luciferin simply overjoyed to have an ice cream. Like a child, the luciferin is energized by merely possessing the ice cream, but the energy is overwhelming and the ice cream is dropped. Without it, luciferin is no longer excited, but is still full of energy that it needs to get rid of. Where does it go? Considering this is an explanation of how luciferase makes light, I hope you guessed that the energy is released as light. After all that, I imagine you've probably got a few questions. Why would they want to glow? What's the point of the light? Am I adopted? Well, I can answer the first 2 questions, but that last one is probably better for your parents. Although you are adopted. So why do they glow? Well, there's a lot of answers to that question, and which one you pick really depends on the species. Some use it for defense, some use it for mating, some use it for hunting, and others we don't really know why they do it. The only way I can think of to show the diversity of uses is through a series of clips illuminating several examples, broken down into 4 classes: attraction, distraction, illumination, and camouflagation. Let's start with the one you're probably most familiar with: attraction. Possibly one of the more well-known uses of bioluminescence, attraction is used a lot to lure in prey, and when I say that, you quite possibly start thinking of an anglerfish, a giant, menacing deep-sea fish that uses a glowing lantern to lure smaller fish right into their mouth. Really, this is such a cool species, and the sock puppet was hard to make, that they would probably warrant their own video, mainly so I can use the puppet again. A more local predator that I've already shown is the glowworm. These little fellas sit snugly in their silk homes and dangle threads down below, much like fishing lines. When they get hungry, they can put up a sign, not literally, and start glowing to lure in small bugs onto their hooks. Once caught, they can reel in their line and enjoy a nice fresh meal. Attraction isn't all about getting your next meal, however. Many species use glowing to attract a mate. A great example of this is the firefly. This particular firefly we can see here is a female photinus, who uses a nice glow as a subtle hint to tell any males that she's keen to play. It seems she has some competition, however, from another female with more nefarious intentions. Look familiar? This other woman isn't a photinus, but rather a photurus, I hope I got that around the right way, who cleverly disguises herself as a photinus to try and lure a male in to be her next meal. Ah, right on cue. Here comes the male. Who will he choose? Which lady has wooed him? Tragically, he seems to have fallen for the photurus. Oh well, hopefully he makes a good meal. To avoid being eaten like our love-struck male, it's best to run away from whoever wants to eat you. Distraction can make this a lot easier. Squid are famous for using this strategy when they blast their enemies with ink, creating a cover for them to escape. But you've probably noticed that this isn't actually a squid, but rather a shrimp. Why would I do this to you? Well, I enjoy being mean, and this little shrimp uses a very similar strategy to squid. When threatened, our shrimpy friend will spray a cloud of bioluminescent bacteria at their enemy before swimming away to safety. I'm not cruel enough to completely deny you a squid, however, so here's one for ya. Allow me to introduce you to Octopotus delatron. I hope I'm saying that right. This chap has a rather unique way of distracting its enemies, although this is only speculated to be why they do this. When threatened, the squid can detach its glowing arms that then start twitching and flashing, so the predator starts eating them, buying time for the squid to escape to safety. Keeping with fish, we now move to the bottom of the ocean, where light is scarce and having your own source of illumination can really help in the search for prey. This is a recreation of the bottom of the ocean. You may notice that it's rather blue. That's because at this depth only blue light can actually reach. As such, many species can only see blue light and have opted for red pigments to help with camouflage. One clever, rather creepy looking fish, the dragonfish, has overcome this problem by developing its own source of red light, which only it can see. By using the searchlight, it can see where all the red fish are, making it much easier to get a meal. The final class, camouflagation, isn't technically a word, but it fit with the shin theme, so I just went with it. Technically, the term is counter-illumination, but that just isn't as funny. To describe counter-illumination, we first go back to our old friend, the octopus. This time, viewed from underneath. You can see how, against the light coming from the surface of the ocean, the squid forms quite a noticeable silhouette, which makes it rather easy for predators to see them. Shifting to a different squid, you can see, well, can't see, this one has managed to camouflage itself quite cleverly. How, you may ask? This particular squid has a glowing belly that allows it to look like just another part of the surface. As with every great defence, however, some predator has co-opted this method for their own nefarious purposes. In this case, it's the friendly-sounding cookie-cutter shark. Don't let the name fool you, however. The shark is still well and truly a carnivore. To lure in its prey, the shark uses counter-illumination to blend in with the ocean surface, but conveniently leaves a small patch unlit. You may notice the silhouette looks a bit like a fish. Well, that's the idea. This fishy shadow serves as a lure for smaller predators, like tuna, who swim right into the shark's mouth.
Whew, that was quite the adventure. We went on a long journey through the amazing world of bioluminescence, learning both the how and the why of glowing. At least, I hope you learnt something. I know I did. In fact, I think I may have learnt enough to start glowing. Oh dang! It worked! I'm glowing! Now how do I stop? I can't stop! It's getting too bright! Help! Ah!